And hello, everyone. Again, it's Christopher Dillard here again with the Conduit and the Community Spotlight. Now, listen, you see who this is to my left in this great suit, this great tie. What an honor and an absolute privilege it is to be interviewing my pastor, Pastor Stacey Mills of the Mountain View Baptist Church in the historic Mountain View Baptist Church, that is, in Greenville, South Carolina. What a delight. This has been a long time coming, but we finally got this man of God on camera, and I'm so appreciative. Now, let me just give you a little bit of his history. For 28 years, he has been serving right here at Mountain View Baptist Church, bivocational. He's had other jobs while he's been serving here as pastor of Mountain View Baptist Church. He's the former assistant pastor of Mount Moriah Baptist Church in Spartanburg, right? He is the former executive director of Greenville Race, Equity, and Economic Mobility Commission, also known as REEM, R-E-E-M. And also he serves as co-president of Greenville Organized for Accountable Leadership Goal, which is leadership, which is also known as GOAL. So listen, he knows what he's doing. This is his area of profession where he serves our community. And I'm just so honored at his wisdom and what God has called him to do. I'm so honored to have this time to talk to Pastor Stacey Mills.
Christopher, thank you so much for inviting us on today and to be able to join with your audience. You're known in this community. You've got the voice. And, many people grew up listening to you on air, and you've made an impact in this community. So thank you for inviting us to be able to come and share with your listeners.
Thank you so
today.
much. You just don't know how much of an honor this is. Thank you, Pastor Mills. Pastor Mills, we got to talk about some areas that's an area of focus, especially having to do with the African American community right here in 2025. We've got to touch on some areas. You know, there was a lady, and I will not mention any names, who was caught up in an issue in our community not too long ago. And everybody was coming at this lady. They were coming at her. They were saying this about her, and they were saying that about her. But one thing that she said that stood out in my mind that I've never forgotten, she said, "Let me tell my own story. Mm-hmm. Let me tell my own story. You can say what you want about me, but it's my story. I know what happened to my life. I know what happened to me. So let me tell my own story." And that's really what I thought about when I thought about you for this interview of our African American community. Nobody can tell our story like we can.
That's right.
You know, so many people say they think they know our community. They think they know us by maybe what they see on television or radio, but we are the ones that can tell our own story.
That's right.
If that makes sense.
It does. And Chris, when you think about it, the old saying goes, the victor controls the narrative.
Wow.
The victor controls the narrative.
So, Pastor, let's just touch on it. It's so much been said now in our times about DEI, about the restructuring of African American communities. So many things that our moms and our dads, our uncles have depended on. It seems to be dwindling. It seems to be going away. And without being too political, but we have to touch on it. Where do we go from here for our communities as it relates to our communities and our people?
Thank you so much. One of the key things that I'd like to mention and caution all of us,
yes,
Chris, is that DE&I may be a concept. It may be a philosophy. Mm-hmm. It may be a practice. Mm-hmm. But on the other end of the spectrum are people.
Oh, come on.
And so when we think about people, and as you said in the intro, our stories, they are attached to the experiences that we've lived.
Yes.
And it's our right, and it is a mandate for us really to capture that information, if not for the public, for our families, mm-hmm. for ourselves, all of us. As you mentioned about the lady, she said it's her story to tell. And the truth be told, we all have a story individually. But I know that you're referring to our collective lived experience. And we have to be very cautious who's writing the narrative, who's in control, and not be discouraged by the removal of the language associated with inclusion and diversity and equity, because we've always lived this.
Right.
We don't need to take back on it. These terms really became popular in the last decade.
Sure.
They've always been around, but they've become popular in the last decade.
Okay.
They've been part of the academic experience as well. There've been curriculum developed around DE&I.
Yeah.
So the attack on DE&I really comes from a place of fear, and it comes from a place of control. And, really there's an answer for that. I'm a preacher, so my thoughts always go to the text. And the text said that I have not given you a spirit of fear,
absolutely,
but one of power and of love and of a sound mind. And I think that we have to think about those three things.
Yes.
Power, love, and a sound mind.
That's good.
And operate from that place. Nobody can take your story away from you. Nobody can minimize who you are or who we are as a collective community.
Yes.
We have to keep striving, keep pressing on.
We have been a resilient people. At Pastor Mills, as you know, we are creative, we are knowledgeable. We've had to work, most of us, 3 times as hard, sometimes as our counterparts. God has just given us creative ability. And this is not to take from any other people or any other race, group, or tribe. So why is it so important, Pastor Mills, that we know who we are? And sometimes that means I go into education. Sometimes that means I have to get a skill that I can grab hold to and make my life better. Why is it so important that we as a people know who we are?
I think the chief thing that comes to mind, Chris, in answering that question, the old saying goes, he who does not learn from his past is destined to repeat it. So, and obviously that refers to the negative things that may happen.
Sure.
The other side of that is grasping wisdom out of experiences. And wisdom is the essence of the lived experience. So whatever it is that we've learned from life,
yes, sir,
we want to bring that forward and share it to the next generation. So, those two things are top of mind. But then the third thing that comes in close behind, we are not only a resilient people, we're an awesome people.
Amen.
We are a creative people.
Yeah.
Just a couple of weeks ago here in our church, our children, thanks to the director of Children's Church, spent some time and took us through a history theater of the church.
Yes.
Our church is 117 years old.
Wow.
Had some incredible leaders come through this community.
Yes, sir.
But they took us back to prior to 1908 and brought us up to 2025, talking about the history. And Chris, I'll be honest with you, I thought about Dr. John Henry Smith, who named Mountain View Baptist Church and led this congregation for more than 76 years.
Wow.
This man started a funeral home. He had the People's Benefit Society. He started several newspapers and pastored this church plus 2 other churches at the same time back then, and was a oiler for the railroad at night. Wow. And my thoughts are, my goodness, are we doing enough? And so my concern is, that we think that we are incapable of surviving and being excellent in our duties. So I think our past teaches us who we are, what stock we come from, and what we're capable of doing. So I hope anybody in your audience today would just think about that. You can do it. You can prevail over life's most difficult circumstances. If your great-great-great-grandma was in a cotton field somewhere in South Carolina or Georgia, Virginia, or North Carolina, praying for you that someday we would be a free people, and today we are a free people, no matter what shackles economically they've attempted to put on us, emotionally, we still are survivors. And I just think, for anybody that's thinking about our history, you've got to look in the face of insurmountable odds to see that those folks overcame with less or fewer resources than we have today. So we can do it.
It's absolutely amazing how we made it. I heard a historian say, it's amazing that we're still here. It's got to be the grace of God. It's got to be God's protection that really kept African-American Black people when we came to this country. It's a miracle in itself. You mentioned the young people. Let's go there right quick. The young people, what is it, how is it that we point our young people in not only educationally, but in the right direction of service, of no matter how far you go, remember where you come from? And I know you have 3 children of your own who are grown now, doing great things in our community.
Thank you.
How do you consistently point them in the direction of not forgetting our people, our neighborhoods? Because we can move to the suburbs, but we're never to forget those of us who are still back in some areas that we came from. How do we point our young people into remembering?
I think what you said and framed that question, consistency, one of those, and the other is relationship building. I think we can't talk at young people.
Absolutely.
We've got to come alongside, figure out what they're interested in. We're talking about your young men are learning to drive. You've got 2 sons. I'm excited about that. And
thank you.
Watching you as a father with them. But if you think about Garrett Morgan and his inventions, that they get out and start driving and pull up to a traffic light. Yeah. And, you can say, that was invented by somebody who looks like you and me. So we can make history living, and that it is a part of our everyday life. It can be as direct as that, or as indirect. I don't think my children ever had a moment in our home where they were not reminded of where we came from.
Yes, sir.
Not just me. Mine, I'm always reminding them of Bobo Street and Detroit and, all of the things, my being born in Detroit and growing up on Bobo Street in Emmons, but their grandmother on their mother's side, their maternal great-grandmother, purchased acreage in Saluda, South Carolina, when it was not popular for Black to own land, but much less for a Black woman to own land. And she bought enough acreage to divide among her children that today the road is named after their family. When you go to Saluda, their family lives on Burton Road, and it's because of the sacrifice that their grandmother made. My children's great-grandmother, my wife's father's mother. Sure. So Chris, history is all around us. It's our job to tell our children who they are. It's our job to mingle their interests with who they are. In our church, this first quarter of the year, we've been talking about identity. Who are you and who told you who you are? If they're getting their information from social media or from school or people who don't like them or who don't know them, we've got to really double down the effort and tell our children who they are. There's so much out there that we can put in front of them. Magazines, the Black Star News Network last night had a wonderful presentation opposite the State of the Union address. And I think that it's time that we take back the story, take back the narrative, just like you said about the lady in our community. Nobody can tell your story for you. So you have to do the job of putting the correct information in front of our children.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pastor Mills. In closing, Martin Luther King Jr. wrote a book, Where Do We Go From Here? And I want to ask that question right here in 2025. Where do we go from here in this climate, in this atmosphere? And it doesn't mean that we're a doomed or gloom people, but we still need to know where we're going. Where do we go from our present this present atmosphere that we're living in? Where do we go from here?
I think he poses that question and says chaos or community. And when we think about that, community to me really is living and vibrant, and it has tentacles. It moves in many directions. I would not at all purport to be so smart to think to be able to answer Dr. King's question, but I would say to move closer to an answer, we need each other.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to say this, Chris.
Yes, sir.
We have to reach across the aisle. We have to reach across to people who may not think like us or look like us or have grown up like us.
Sure.
To be so confident in our background and our story that we're not ashamed to be present in rooms that we may be the minority in terms of number. Yeah. I've always thought that integration does a disservice to the person who is unsure of themselves. That you can't fully integrate until you integrate, till you know who you are, until you look within yourself and know who you are. And God did not make us to be ashamed of ourselves. Skin color, complexion, nose width, hair texture. Yes, none of that. All of that is a part of God's creation. Absolutely. And we've got to own that. So I think identity is a part of where we go from here. Identity. That we learn who we are and accentuate that. Wow. Be who we are.
Perfectly said. I could not have said it any better myself. I am so grateful at this time for these few moments with this leader in history, with this great community worker, with this knowledgeable man whom I've admired for so many years, the pastor of the Mountain View Baptist Church in Greenville, South Carolina, where he still serves the people of God, loves on the people of God, knows the people that he serves. And I'm so honored and so grateful for this man of God. He really is a treasure. And I give him his flowers while he lives. I give it to him now. We thank God for Pastor Mills. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Christopher Dillard with the Conduit and the Community Spotlight. Yes, I do go out in the community interviewing those leaders who are absolutely making a difference in our communities. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube. That's right there at Christopher Dillard Media. Please go right now and subscribe. First, click on the page and then subscribe. We love you, and we'll see you next time.